Germans were the first to use flamethrowers in World War I. Their flamethrowers could fire jets of flame as far as 130 feet 40 meters. More than 65 million men from 30 countries fought in World War I. Nearly 10 million died. The Allies, the Entente powers, lost about 6 million soldiers. The Central Powers lost about 4 million. Nearly two-thirds of military deaths in World War I were in battle. In previous conflicts, most deaths were due to disease. In August 1914, German troops shot and killed 150 civilians at airshow. The killing was part of war policy known as Schrecklichkeit, frightfulness. Its purpose was to terrify civilians in occupied areas so that they would not rebel. During World War I, British tanks were initially categorized into males and females. Male tanks had cannons, while females had heavy machine guns. Little Willie was the first prototype tank in World War I. Built in 1915, it carried a crew of 3 and could travel as fast as 3 miles per hour, 4.8 kilometers per hour. 7 artillery barrage and mines created immense noise. In 1917, explosives blowing up beneath the German lines on Messines Ridge at Ypres in Belgium could be heard in London 140 miles 220 kilometers away. The Pool of Peace is a 40 ft 12 m deep lake near Messines, Belgium. It fills a crater made in 1917 when the British detonated a mine containing 45 tons of explosives. The most successful fighter pilot of the entire war was German fighter pilot Manfred Albrecht Freiherr von Richthofen (1892–1918), or the Red Baron. He shot down 80 planes, more than any other World War I pilot. He died after being shot down near Amiens. France's René Fonck (1894–1953) was the Allies' most successful fighter pilot, shooting down 75 enemy planes. During World War I, dogs were used as messengers and carried orders to the front lines in capsules attached to their bodies. Dogs were also used to lay down telegraph wires. 11 Big Bertha was a 48-ton howitzer used by the Germans in World War I. It was named after the wife of its designer Gustav Krupp. It could fire a 2,050-pound (930 kg) shell a distance of 9.3 miles 15 kilometers. However, it took a crew of 200 men 6 hours or more to assemble. Germany had 13 of these huge guns or wonder weapons. 12 tanks were initially called landships. However, in an attempt to disguise them as water storage tanks rather than as weapons, the British decided to codename them tanks. French 2nd Lieutenant Alfred Joubert wrote in his diary about World War I just before he died that humanity is mad. It must be mad to do what it is doing. What a massacre. What scenes of horror and carnage. I cannot find words to translate my impressions. Hell cannot be so terrible. Men are mad. Some Americans disagreed with the United States' initial refusal to enter World War I, and so they joined the French Foreign Legion or the British or Canadian Army. A group of U.S. pilots formed the Lafayette Escadrille, which was part of the French Air Force and became one of the top fighting units on the Western Front. In early 1917, British cryptographers deciphered a telegram from German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann to Germany's minister in Mexico. The telegraph encouraged Mexico to invade U.S. territory. The British kept it a secret from the U.S. for more than a month. They wanted to show it to the U.S. at the right time to help draw the U.S. into the war on their side. Woodrow Wilson's campaign slogan for his second term was, "He kept us out of war." About a month after he took office, the United States declared war on Germany on April 6, 1917. To increase the size of the U.S. Army during World War I, Congress passed the Selective Service Act, which was also known as the conscription or draft, in May 1917. By the end of the war, 2.7 million men were drafted. Another 1.3 million volunteered. 18 During World War I, people of German heritage were suspect in the U.S. Some protests against Germans were violent, including the burning of German books, the killing of German shepherd dogs, and even the murder of one German American. 19 During World War I, the Spanish flu caused about one-third of total military deaths. 20 Herbert Hoover, who would become president in 1929, was appointed U.S. Food Administrator. His job was to provide food to the U.S. Army and its allies. He encouraged people to plant victory gardens, or personal gardens. More than 20 million Americans planted their own gardens, and food consumption in the U.S. decreased by 15%. 21 The total cost of World War I for the U.S. was more than $30 billion. 22 The war left thousands of soldiers disfigured and disabled. Reconstructive surgery was used to repair facial damage, but masks were also used to cover the most horrific disfigurement. Some soldiers stayed in nursing homes their entire lives. 23 World War I is the sixth deadliest conflict in world history. 24 British author T. E. Lawrence (1888–1935), also known as Lawrence of Arabia, worked for Allied intelligence in the Middle East. He also led an Arab revolt against the Turks and wrote about it in his book The Seven Pillars of Wisdom. 25 Four empires collapsed after World War I: Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, German, and Russian.